The Galactic Council had always considered humans to be a curiosity, a species that valued emotion over logic, compassion over efficiency. They were the newcomers, the youngest sapient race to join the interstellar community, and most council members viewed them with a mixture of amusement and condescension. But on the day the Zarkith Dominion attacked Colony 7, everything changed. Jenny Martinez stood in the observation deck of the UHSV Retribution, her dark eyes fixed on the planet below. The young communications officer had been stationed on Colony 7 just 3 months ago, working alongside her mentor, Dr. Eleanor Hartley. One of humanity's most respected xenanthropologists, Dr. Hartley had dedicated her life to building bridges between species, teaching both humans and aliens about the value of understanding and cooperation down now. Dr. Hartley was dead. So were the 247 children who had been attending the Interspecies Education Center when the Zarkith bombardment began. Cristiano Voss, the Retribution's tactical commander, approached Jenny with measured steps. His jaw was set in a hard line, and the scar running across his left cheek seemed darker than usual in the dim light. He'd been off-world during the attack, leading a diplomatic mission to the Corellian system. The mission had been successful until the news arrived. "They're saying it was an accident," Cristiano said quietly, his voice barely containing the rage simmering beneath. "The Zarkith ambassador claims their targeting systems malfunctioned." Jenny turned to face him, her expression cold. "An accident doesn't explain why they continued firing for 47 minutes after the first strike. An accident doesn't explain why they specifically targeted the education center, the medical facilities, and the elderly care compound." Cristiano nodded grimly. The evidence was irrefutable. The Zarkith hadn't just attacked a human colony, they had systematically eliminated the most vulnerable members of their population. It was a message, a brutal demonstration of what the Dominion thought of humanity's place in the galaxy. For weeks, the Galactic Council debated. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in their gleaming hall, discussing sanctions, reparations, and formal apologies. The Zarkith representative, a towering insectoid creature with compound eyes that reflected no remorse, offered the standard diplomatic platitudes. They would conduct an internal investigation. They would consider compensating the families. They would ensure such an unfortunate incident never occurred again. But humans had learned something during their short time among the stars. They had learned that, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, justice was not given. It had to be taken. Jenny had requested a transfer to the Retribution. Immediately after being evacuated from Colony 7, she had spent her recovery time analyzing every piece of data from the attack, cross-referencing Zarkith military protocols, studying their ship designs and tactical doctrines. What she discovered confirmed what many in the human military had suspected. This was no accident. It was a test. The Zarkith wanted to see how humanity would respond to provocation. They wanted to gauge whether humans were truly as weak and sentimental as their reputations suggested, or if there was steel beneath the diplomatic smiles. Cristiano had been coordinating with human fleets across 3 sectors. While the Council talked, humanity prepared. They pulled ships from patrol routes, recalled special operations teams from deep space assignments, and activated reserves that hadn't seen combat since the Orion conflicts. All of it done quietly. All of it done with the precision that only a species familiar with warfare could manage. The other races didn't understand. They had lived in relative peace for centuries, their conflicts resolved through negotiation and economic pressure. They had forgotten what it meant to truly fight, to pour every resource and every ounce of will into the singular purpose of victory. Humans had not forgotten. 3 months after the attack on Colony 7, the Zarkith received their answer. It didn't come in the form of a diplomatic note or an economic sanction. It came as 27 human battleships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in the heart of Zarkith space. Jenny watched from the Combat Information Center as the operation unfolded. The targets had been carefully selected, not civilian centers, but military installations, shipyards, and command facilities. Humanity would not stoop to the Zarkith's level, but they would ensure that Dominion understood the cost of their actions. Cristiano led the assault personally, his flagship cutting through Zarkith defensive formations like a blade. Human pilots flew with a precision that shocked their enemies, coordinating attacks with a level of intuition that no AI could match. They had been trained for this, prepared for this, and though many had hoped this day would never come, they were ready. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the Zarkith Dominion's military capability had been reduced by 40%. Their central command structure was in ruins, and most importantly, the galaxy had received a message of its own. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The other species were shocked, horrified even, at humanity's display of military might. Some called for sanctions against humanity, arguing that their response was disproportionate. It was Jenny who addressed the council, standing where Dr. Hartley had once stood, advocating for peace and understanding. "You call our response extreme," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "But where were you when our elder was killed? Where were you when our children were murdered? You offered words while we buried our dead. You spoke of investigations while we mourned the future that was stolen from us." She paused, meeting the eyes of representatives from across the galaxy. "Humanity values peace. We cherish life. Dr. Eleanor Hartley dedicated her existence to building bridges between our peoples. But we have learned that peace, without the strength to defend it, is merely an invitation to those who would take advantage of compassion. We did not start this conflict, but we have finished it. Let this be a lesson to any who would mistake our kindness for weakness." Cristiano stood beside her, silent but imposing. The message was clear. The galaxy had learned what humans were capable of when pushed beyond their limits. They had discovered that beneath the diplomacy and the idealism existed a species that had clawed its way to the stars through countless conflicts. A species that understood both the value of peace and the necessity of strength. The Zarkith Dominion sued for peace within days. Reparations were paid, not through council mediation, but through direct negotiation with humanity. And across the galaxy, species that had once viewed humans as naive newcomers began to reassess their understanding. Jenny returned to Colony 7, helping to rebuild what had been destroyed. But she would never forget the lesson learned in Fire and Blood, that sometimes the only way to preserve what you love is to fight for it with everything you have. And humanity would always remember its children.